Hey guys, welcome back to Daska Discusses. Well, I just saw episode 9 Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. What can I say? Well, look, this is a spoiler-free review, and I'm just going to, it's like 3 in the morning here in Australia, and what can I say about it? Initial thoughts are as follows. I will release a spoiler review soon, but in terms of spoiler-free, let's put it this way. In terms of Rise of Skywalker, I think the first half of the film, I mean, I'm not going to go into like the plot and everything like that because you've seen a lot from the trailers. You know that Emperor Palpatine is in it. That's obvious in that. But in terms of where it goes and how it is, I think the first half of the film is a bit of, it's kind of like J.J. Abrams is putting a band-aids on a lot of things. So a lot of problems that people had with The Last Jedi and a bit of The Force Awakens are kind of like fixed up per se, kind of, which kind of ends up being the first, say, hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half, the first hour and a half, the first hour, which is kind of like a bit of a mess in terms of like trying to actually fix things that Rian Johnson had, and then kind of like giving us answers to things very quickly, transitioning from one thing to another. I found the first half of the film is just basically, the good guys trying to get certain things or trying to meet certain people in different planets. It's like, oh no, you got to go to this place, go to that place. It's kind of like very, very jumbled kind of mess in terms of the storytelling, what's at stake. Now, talking about what's at stake, I found that a lot of the time in the film where it's just that our heroes, basically, Poe, Finn, Rey, to that extent, just kind of like get the job done with what they got to do, and there's no kind of threat or danger to them at all at any point. So that's what I find interesting. I found that, the acting was fantastic. The soundtrack was great, with John Williams, and, I'm a big Star Wars fan my whole life, and there's some scenes that, are quite emotional at some points, I'm not going to get into it here because, spoilers per se. But as a whole, the issue with the Rise of Skywalker is where it lies in terms of where it goes in terms of character development and trying to like tell the audience, hey, this is going to happen, this person's going to turn or this person's going to go good, etc. But it kind of like, you could see it happening at that point. There's no kind of like big reveals. I mean, yeah, there is kind of something like that. And what I found at that point was like, well, if you've kind of a fan of Star Wars and you've seen the trailers and you've got half a brain, you can kind of work out what is going to happen with a certain character, right? So I found that pretty interesting and also a bit annoying at the same time. Now, where it ranks in terms of how I found everything else in it, where it ranks in terms of the other two in the trilogy, I think I do at the moment like Force Awakens the most out of them. Last Jedi I really didn't like. With this, I have to watch it again to obviously have a proper opinion on it. But initial thoughts coming out were that it seemed like a bit of a mess at times, but then there was some good parts in it and it did work well at some points. Now, in terms of did it tie everything all together with the Star Wars saga, I guess. No spoilers here. I really enjoyed like the last kind of sequence, but I'm just thinking that I'm always going to have the original trilogy, and that's what I think Star Wars stands for and what it is. Like the original trilogy is what Star Wars is for me, and this kind of the way it kind of ended, and just initial thoughts, guys. Initial thoughts is that, okay, it's kind of like J.J. Abrams is putting band-aids, fixing up all these problems, and it's kind of like feels like it's like, okay, let's just wrap up this story so then Disney can just continue on with The Mandalorian and maybe other TV shows and other films. That's what it kind of feels like. It kind of feels like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Yeah, let's just put the Emperor in and throw in some kind of exposition as to why he's here and answer some questions from The Last Jedi. No spoilers, but there's little things like, to defeat, the bad guys, let's just do what Holdo did in Last Jedi. And then someone says, oh, that was a 1 in a million kind of move. So I like how J.J. Abrams kind of like, answered the questions that all fans had about that whole light speed, using a ship for light speed and just killing everyone like that. That was pretty funny. Other little bits that you will laugh and not you'll laugh and enjoy near the end of the film, which are great. But as a whole, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not happy with how it all ended, but I just think I'll go into it more in my spoiler review. But for now, I think how it stands, just walking out, I think the max I could probably give it out of 10 would be between a 6.5 and a 7. Now that's okay. That's a pass, C plus or a B. A 7 is the max that this will go to. It doesn't beat The Force Awakens, no way, and it definitely beats The Last Jedi, I think. But it's just that at some points, it just feels like a bit of a mess. It feels like a lot of fixing up what went wrong. And between all that, trying to fix all that, trying to tell a story, it just kind of like really just takes it away from, the integral part, which was like Ren and Rey. Kylo Ren, Rey, and, Palpatine and all that, and how they went about with that plot. It just feels, I don't feel empty about how it all ends and how it all ended, but Star Wars being a part of my life for so long, and, Empire Strikes Back, my favorite film of all time, I was just thinking about how good those films were while I was watching it, and even appreciating, things like Episode 3, and even to some extent Episode 1. At least they were, not 2. But, there's a lot of nostalgia moments here which were really great, but in terms of as a whole, I'll have to watch it again. But I put it this way, I mean, I'm not going to go back tomorrow to watch it like I did with, even Episode 3 and Episode 2 and 1, back then. I'm not going to rush straight away to go watch it. But yeah, I'm going to give, for now, in this spoiler-free review, my initial thoughts straight after I watched it. I'm going to give it a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. So if you like this video, guys, leave a like, comment, let me know what you thought. I'll release a spoiler review soon. But for now, that was my little gripes with it. Hope you enjoyed this. Please leave a like, comment if you want, and don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next episode of Daska Discusses. Boom!